Producers panel. My name is Johnny Wu. I'm actually a producer, director, editor here in Cleveland, Ohio. We're carrying out to the Horror Film Festival. This is the 14 years. I'm also one of the owner and one of the co-manager. So I appreciate you guys being here. Today, as the producer panel, we have four, originally five, but one had to rush back. So we have four people, gentlemen here, and they will be introducing yourself, a little bit of who you are, and then we can go from there.
My name's Rob. I'm a producer, writer, director. As you can probably tell from the accent, I'm not from around here. I'm from Los Angeles. What twist? I've been in the industry a while. Started out working for Paramount for a long time, and then kind of made the transition to indie movie after that.
My name is Jason Pitts, writer, director, producer out of Arkansas. I was looking at these guys' resumes, and I'm not sure I should be up here, but I love making movies, and we got one screening tomorrow at 3:15 here, The Forest of the Tree. So if you guys can make it and watch it, I'd love to hear your guys' reactions and your thoughts on it.
Hi, my name is Alex Havens. I am a producer, director, writer, actor, whatever, out of Nashville, Tennessee. I am currently producing my first feature film based off of a screenplay that I wrote. Been in love with film since I was very, very young, but only recently, within the past 5 years, got actually active in the industry. So very excited to be here and share everything that I've done thus far.
My name is Nathan Ludwig. I'm an author, producer, festival runner. I run a festival in Virginia called the Genre Film Festival. And through that, we're a production company, Genre Stone, Genre Book. So it's like an umbrella for pretty much everything. I produced a feature film that played here a couple years ago called Worst Laid Plans. It's an anthology of vacation horror based on the book from Grindhouse Press. You can see it on Tubi and all the book streaming apps right now if you want to check it out. Blu-rays and we're running two that we're selling. Currently in production on a couple genre features, Truck Squatch and Dead Format right now. So those are our two big ones. The Truck Squatch is exactly what it sounds like. It's a truck. It's a great title. It's a trucker Sasquatch, killing a bunch of racists. So, just living life, writing books, producing movies.
Excellent, excellent. So we're going to make this a little bit more interactive. If anybody here do have any questions, just raise your hand. We can ask a question right away. This way it will be more interactive. So since nobody's saying anything yet, let's start to drill your brains. Yeah, that's good. So one thing is, when you start producing, what are the first top five things that you think about doing?
Me? Okay, I go first.
Anybody, you can go first.
I think for me, the first five things really are about, is it a good story? Is it going to have a commercial appeal to some effect? What's it going to cost? And logistically, can we get it made? And then finally, how are we going to market it? How are we going to get it out to market? I think as a producer, everybody here is producer, writer, director. You have to wear so many hats these days, and you have to think about the commercial side of it as well as the
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to work with what you have. You don't want to write a script that is going to cost like $2 million to make if you don't have those resources. So you really have to craft the story based off of the resources that you have. I think is one of the biggest things that you think of at the beginning. So.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of that, and definitely just being mindful of the budget when you're reviewing the script, but also the impact of the story as well. I think is really important to me when it comes to looking at a project that I want to produce. Me personally, I want to make an impact with the stories that I tell, with the things that I put out there. I want them to resonate with audiences. I want them to take something away about the human experience from them. So I think that's another one of the things that I really like as well.
Sure. These are all great things I think about. One of the main things I think about is who am I working with, who am I going to be working with, who I want to work with. Nowadays, it's, you got to be careful who you get in bed with, figuratively, I guess in literally too. When you're in the kind of indie film world, in the film festival world, you build a kind of like a mental Rolodex of who you want to work with in the future. And I very rarely work with people I don't know anymore, just because you're embedded these people for a long, extended period of time, not just shooting a film, but post-production, the festivals, and distribution. So one of the main things for me is working with people that you don't want to kill, and do the social media blow-ups and all that stuff. That's the last thing that you want. So I would just say vet who you're going to work with and be sure that people that you want to kind of go in the trenches for making a film. That's one of the big things for me.
Cool. All right, so starting with Nathan this time. What is the most difficult thing to being a producer?
I'd say one of the most, it can be a thankless job, a very thankless job. The director gets all the credit, and rightfully so. I mean, it's their vision. So you kind of have to remind yourself sometimes, yes, you can foster the talent, bring the talent together, and you can, I do help with the screenplay. A lot of the films that I produce, I also co-write as well too, with the director. But yeah, you have to remember sometimes that the director is going to get all the glory a lot of times, even if like Forced Slave Plans, it was 3 different directors directing those segments, so, and I'm kind of behind the scenes managing everything. So nobody sees that you're basically coordinating the whole film, 3 different shoots, 3 different states, 3 different insurance policies, all that kind of stuff. So I think sometimes, it's a lot of work that nobody sees. So you just have to remind yourself that, because I've dealt with a couple co-producers that are like, I can't do this. Like nobody knows what, nobody like respects what we're doing. I mean, that's the job. You're basically managing the film. You're a film manager. So if you're not cool with that job, then maybe directing is better for you.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me in producing would actually be delegation. It's kind of for the same reason that there's so much we have to deal with, just behind the scenes, behind the curtains, paperwork, production bibles, all that kind of stuff that I kind of, especially when I do have co-producers and a team, I'm just so used to taking on the work myself and everybody being like, oh, I can't do that, but I just have to remember that it is a team effort and that delegation is important, otherwise things get bogged down and production can get stuck up real fast.
For me, there's a couple things. I think for any film project, communication is key. Make sure everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. I've seen so many productions where there's a communication breakdown and the whole thing just goes off the rails. And being a producer, I think it's your responsibility to make sure that the key people are in place to, keep the communication lines open and moving. Another thing on my journey, this film is my second feature film. It's the first one that I've been able to get distribution for, so I'm kind of learning that world as I go, and so that's been a challenge and a process, learning all that.
For me, I think there's 2 things. One is like everybody said here, it's about surrounding yourself with good people, finding people who you can trust and work with. I'm very lucky in that I work with 2 great producers, Carl, who's sitting over there, and another lady called Amy, who's down in Augusta, Georgia. And, each of us know what we do, we have clear roles, and it's a pleasure working with them. But the biggest challenge for me right now, I think, is distribution. It's dealing with distribution, it's getting the film out in front of people, and getting a deal where you're not getting screwed over by a distributor. Because, for anyone who's worked in the industry for a long time, it's great when you distribute it, it's another matter when it comes down to getting the money back. So, I think what you were saying, Nathan, you've got to be really, really careful who you work with, because there's a lot of sharks in this industry who just really take advantage of your work and will just take it and you'll get nothing in return. So that's the biggest challenge.
All right, another challenging question. So you are all having different hats, sitting with different hats, writer, director, producer, blah, 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 everything else, maybe a camera person too. How do you juggle that? And when do you say you are the boss as a producer, or when you say you're the director when you're dealing with actors?
Okay, for me, again, I'm lucky in a way that because I have 2 other producers that we've worked with together, we know each other really well. And as a director, which is my first love, it gets to a point when we start pre-production, I'm able to step back and let Carl and Amy take the helm of the producing side, because I know that I can trust them, they know what they're doing. I don't have to worry about it. So it's very fortunate for me. So when I'm directing, it's just about the directing. I kind of help set stuff up and then post, help with distribution deals and that kind of stuff. But I'm very lucky and I recognise that because of fancy directing.
Yeah, I had a similar game plan on Forest of the Trees. I had everything set up, all the locations, insurance done. I did all of that myself before production started. I made sure to have a really strong production manager and a really strong AD. And, you know, I told them, I was like, when we're on set, you guys handle any issues that you know, production issues that come up. If there's something that costs money, then bring it to me. I just want to be able to focus on the directing and the actors. And they did a phenomenal job with the shoot, making that happen. We did have a few things that I had to get involved with. But overall, I couldn't have been happier with it. But so, yeah, just having key people in the right spots.
Yeah, echoing that sentiment, I have a wonderful producer duo, Chris and Katie Tawny, who I work with, and they are literally my guiding light through this because I am, on this one that I'm producing now, I am director, I am writer, I am acting in it. So if I didn't have them, there is probably no way that this one would get made. So it's like what we've all been saying, it's really important to like surround yourself crew-wise with people that you can really trust and people that you can kind of almost look at as your friends, people that you would want to go out and get like a drink with afterwards, that kind of thing. And that really eases a lot of the pressure and wearing those multiple hats and being able to kind of let go of the reins and be present in the role that I need to be.
I would definitely say that having a co-producer definitely helps. That way you guys can delegate what who needs to do what. The last couple of projects I worked on, I've had a co-producer, Samantha Bayezal, who's a fantastic writer and filmmaker. And she is very like down to business, kind of nuts and bolts with casting and crew and getting everybody coordinated, and I can kind of manage on basically managing people during the production and making sure the director's vision is achieved without even getting in the way, kind of running interference if anyone has any issues. And I think just knowing that if first AD doesn't show up to set or quit or script supervisor, that you should be not as knowledgeable about those positions as possible in case you need to step in or show somebody else how to do that position. So I think as a producer, you kind of have to be a jack of all trades. Even if you don't have any inclination for the creative aspects like a director does, you should be able to know every position on set and how it works, at least in a basic sense. That way you can step in or get someone else to step in for you. And I like doing that. It's fun.
Anybody any questions so far? Go ahead.
So Nathan?
Yes.
Right? Yeah, so Jeremy Herbert is kind of a friend of mine, and I know he works on more slate plans, so I just wanted to hear maybe a bit more about that, like from your experience of producing that, like the challenges of not just one filmmaker, but three, right? Three, it was an anthology film. I have the Blu-ray copy of it, so yeah, if you could just maybe talk a bit more about that experience, I'd be curious.
Well, Jeremy is a producer's dream to work with. He comes in under budget and on time, and he doesn't complain about anything. There's no drama with Jeremy. He just goes out and shoots his thing, and if he needs something from me, he'll ask you, and then he's done. But on Worst Laid Plans, it was managing 3 different personalities, all at the same time. Everybody wants something different. Everybody's, expectations are different. So it really is managing personalities. And when you're working on an anthology, that was my first feature film as a producer. Was an anthology, which was kind of getting thrown into the deep end because you're not just managing one director over, you're managing 3 different people at 3 different times, and they're all asking for different things, and, one of them is, doesn't like the other one, and this and that, and they're vague looking on social media, and you're just like, how do you handle this? And sometimes you really just want to yell at them, but you can't, because then your reputation is at stake, and then you have to remember that, if you want to keep working in independent film, you got to build that reputation. And yeah, I don't have any complaints. Jeremy's a good friend of mine, so I mean, he's fantastic to work with, and he's got a feature film that he's working on right now called Blood and Rust. And that looks fantastic, a real cool vampire flick. But yeah, I don't have any notes on Jeremy. Jeremy was perfect to work with. I would work with him again. So yeah, but in general, managing different people as far as an anthology is concerned, it's literally like customer service. I mean, hate to say it, but it's legit like customer service. Just meet their needs to a reasonable expectation and make sure that they have the resources they need to make their segment. Because we basically just gave them the money. Said, this is your segment, here's your money, you cast and crew your film, and then you turn it into us, basically. And then as you go along, we'll make sure you have everything you need kind of thing. Instead of micromanaging, why do that? Why did you hire them if you're going to micromanage them? So we just hired them to make their segment and then turn it in, pretty much. And just monitoring them along the way to make sure that's good.
And what was the impetus for that whole project? I can open up to the rest of the floor too. Like normally, like for on the producing side of things, like how do projects get born? Like, do you have a director that comes to you and says, hey, I want to make this. Like, can you help me? Or is it coming from you first? Like, are you looking? Do you have a script in mind that you are trying to shop around to different directors? Like, how does that? How did worst laid plans work for you? And then, I guess to the rest of the group, how do other projects get born for you?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So my co-producer, co-creative partner, Samantha Koyasnik, she's a fantastic author. She wrote 2 books called True Crime and Wait, if you can find them online. They've just been reprinted. They're 2 of the best, like, indie horror books you'll ever read. They're fantastic. She edited an anthology for a press called Grindhouse Press called Worst Laid Plans, an anthology of vacation horror. It had like a dozen vacation horror stories in it. So we picked like 3 to 5 stories that could be shot feasibly on a decent budget. And ended up whittling it down to 3 segments after a while. And she came to me and said, hey, do you want to produce this with me, basically. So she was the impetus for it. She started the whole thing through the book that she edited and, curated, basically. And then kind of handed it off to me. She was still there working as a producer, but I was kind of the producer during the production process of the film. So, yeah, it was fun to be able to take something that, because I was reading the book as a fan, because, she's a friend of mine, and I said, some of these would make really good, like, short films. And she's like, you know what, now that you mention that, I'm thinking about doing a feature with these, these certain films. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to see that go from beginning to end, because it turned out nice, because it could have ended in disaster, and I've worked on feature films that ended in disaster, and everybody just walks away from everything and pretends that it never happened. But it's nice to be part of something that's out, it's online, it's on the streaming platforms right now to watch.
And then for that, you then went and hunted for directors for those projects, right?
So we had directors in mind. Just doing John Glass Film Festival, we know a lot of really cool directors. You see enough films and shorts, you're like, I want to work with that guy, that girl, et cetera. And so we had some people in mind ahead of time, and hoping that it would line up, and we matched the director to the material as best as we could, and they were all very excited about it. We didn't have anyone that said no, which was always good.
Same question from Alex.
Yeah, so when it comes to the projects that I produce, I'm a writer first and foremost, and I have a really great collaborative creative team that I work with a lot, and we kind of circulate scripts and stuff. But there is also another method, I guess, that I love, and I just kind of keep my ear to the ground, especially on the internet and social media. There are so many talented writers out there that are just posting their work out on message boards and Facebook groups and stuff like that. So it's really fun to just see all the different stories that people have out there and all the different opportunities that there are to bring these stories to life when they don't really understand or know how to get these projects recognition or out there and seen. So that's kind of like my main go-to is just kind of perusing social media and the internet and like independent message boards and stuff like that. There's a lot of great material out there and people that want their stories brought to life.
My producing journey started out of necessity. Much like Alex, I started out as a writer, and I wrote stories and scripts and tried to get them sold and finding directors to make them, and nobody cared. So I was like, I'm going to have to direct these. And so I started directing them, and then I was like, okay, well now I need to find producers to help me make these films, and then nobody cared about that either. So I was just like, all right, well, I guess I gotta do it all. So I started producing my own stuff. Started to get my name out there, and now I'm to the point where I'm helping other people who were like me, 5 or 6 years ago, kind of at the beginning of their journey, helping them with their stories. And I look for, directors that have good quality stories, stories that, touch me, speak to me, also have good quality technical aspects on their production teams. I think the last year I've helped probably about 6 projects produce their short films in my area in Arkansas. So.
For me, the stories that we make, films that we make, they all come from a place of passion. It's about finding stories that we love, that are meaningful to us, and trying to make those happen. At the end of the day, if you don't care about the stories, then how do you expect anyone else to? So all of our projects, whoever's written them, wherever they come from, it's about something that means something to someone who's telling a story.
Anybody else got any questions? Don't be shy, they don't bite. Maybe Jason over there, sir. All right, so here's a question about budgets. How do you deal with budget, and how do you think that budget will affect your distribution?
Budgets, it's super critical. These days you have to be really creative in the way you approach with budgets. For us, we have some funds that we have that we've made out of movies that we've made that we carry forward. But when we're approaching a movie, it's all about how to do it creatively. We work. Most of the projects we've filmed have been down in Augusta, Georgia, and we have a really good relationship with the local community there. They trust us. We use the same crew, a lot of the same actors. It's almost like a repertory company. So, because of that goodwill, we're able to get called lots of favors. People will lend us places in return for commending the credits or just having their brand featured in the film. And so that helps us. That almost doubles our budget every time we do it because of that goodwill and those relationships. So it's about crafting those relationships, finding those people who are excited and passionate about film and want to support it, and seeing how you can use them and being fair with them. Giving them something back. It's easy to give them the back end, but who gets back end these days? It just doesn't happen. So it's just about having that budget, being disciplined about it. And making sure that you're creative about everything you do. I think it was Wes Craven who said, big budget's a curse for indie movie because you don't think creatively. When you throw money at something, you don't think about it. So it makes you more creative, I think, which is the upside to managing the budget, the kind that we do.
Yeah, I completely agree. The Forest of the Trees was the movie that I had the biggest budget on, and it was $80,000. And it was just about relationships that you have built before. Built we call it a film family, but over the past 5 years or so, making short film after short film after short film, just slowly growing this community and establishing like a creative economy. It was like, yeah, I'll help you on your film, you help me on my film, keeping the cost of the budget down, finding locations that are just excited to have you there. Just reaching out to local stores that are willing to donate props and stuff. Any possible thing you can to just keep that cost down. I don't know how it translates towards distribution yet because this is my first film I've gotten that far with. So we'll see.
You spent $80,000 on this project. Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to budget, we're definitely very meticulous in how we plan it, especially because a lot of our budget is very grassroots, pooled, crowdfunded. So we take a look at a couple of different figures, such as with this budget we can go into production, we can get this movie made. We have this budget, we can have a little bit more fun with it, we can get a little bit more creative in terms of production design, all that kind of stuff. But really, I think what's important is what they've been saying is resourcing, trading favors. I'm very blessed and lucky that we have the Nashville Film Institute down in Nashville, so we have tons of film students who are just looking to get their hands on some work, get some experience, get some credits under their name. So it really helps when you have access to those kinds of resources because then you can free up your budget a lot more. And just like Jason, I don't really know how that translates into distribution yet because we haven't gotten to that point with houses-wise. But I'm eager to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to piggyback on everybody else. You know, I see a lot of crowdfunders. I mean, and to start off, crowdfunders, they're a necessary evil. You pretty much have to start with a crowdfunder, whether it's Indiegogo or Kickstarter. For Indiegogo, because you get to keep everything you make. As far as I know, Kickstarter, you have to be a goal in order to get everything, which can bite you in the long run. So you definitely need to know your budget ahead of time. I know a lot of crowdfunders that will just say, we'll just get 50,000 and then just wing it from there. And that's a horrible idea. Don't do that. Make sure you know, you don't have to down to the penny, but just make sure you know with all the favors that you can get from your local area, how much your budget's going to be before you start crowdfunding, and then you can come up with other ideas after that. But just through Genre Blast Film Festival, we started that in 2015, 2016. We've had a really good goodwill in supporting the indie film community and built a good base of I don't know if fans is the right word, but a good base of people that support the festival, and we support each other. So that way, when you do something, you're like, oh, well, Genre Blast is they're producing a feature film, they're great. I'll give them some money. So whether it's a film institute or a local film club, filmmakers club, film festival, whatever your local film festival is, go get a part of that, hook up with them, and be a part of their regulars. And when you're ready to start something, they'll be more than willing to support you because you have good reputation. So I think that's really important as far as budget is concerned, being able to utilize every resource you can at the level that you're at. So there's nothing wrong with making a movie by yourself, shooting, editing it, producing it by yourself, but that can be very exhausting. So make sure you're using all the resources that you can and all the people that you can that are available to you.
Good question.
Can I add something?
Sure. Sorry, just on that one thing, you guys made me think of it with distribution. One of the things we've found is that, let me ask you guys, how many here are filmmakers? How many here are aspiring filmmakers want to do it, have done it? Okay. When you're talking to distribution companies, particularly in the market that we're in, the smaller guys, independent groups, one of the things I'd say that I've learned is if you can help it, never tell them what your budget is. If you can get away with that, don't tell them, because if they think it's a tiny budget, they won't put much resource behind it. So if you have to give a budget, then you include things like the in-kind costs, the trading deals. What's the value of that? If someone gives you a location, what would it cost you that to buy that? But be very careful who you give your budget to, because that can work against you with distributors.
Did I say 80,000? I meant 350.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about that. If you said 350, the distributor said that they need to make $700,000 to be able to make the money back. And so because it's always going to be a double 50 or 100% double or whatever amount. That's my experience with all the distributors I deal with. So unfortunately, in the market that we are right now, back in the time we do the clubhouse big chat, we did a research back then, and that was at 2020. That they would say that about 27% of movies made more than $250,000 made to the market with return of investment. Anything that made $250,000 more, less, other than 27% of people, they don't make. So the market is really, really bad back then. So it can be worse now because everyone's making movies. Everybody here is making movies, right? So yeah, just be careful on what number you say that. You have to be realistic enough to say that if you tell them $250,000, they may have to say $700,000. So it's what realistically speaking, the distributor can get it for you. After all, 99.9% of them are really not going to give you money back. So that's the thing with that. Don, you got a question? Sorry.
When production's wrapped and you look at how much you've spent, how does it usually break out, like percentage-wise, like equipment rental, craft, location rental? Any ideas?
From my experience, the majority of the budget went to location rentals and travel on my actors. We shot, we had 3 5-day shoots spread out over 2 months. So one block of 5, one block of 5, one block of 5, and 3 of my actors that had to fly in each of those shoots. So a lot of the budget came to transporting them and room and board, making sure they have a place to stay and food. So yeah. That's where the majority of it went.
Yeah, paying actors, paying the crew, making sure they have a place to stay, something to eat, paying the day rates, transportation, rental cars. That's where a lot of the current film we're shooting right now, Dead Format, that's where most of the budget is going. Equipment rental, all that stuff that a lot of like super low budget indie filmmakers don't factor into it. They're like, yeah, we can get away with not paying the cast crew, don't do that. Pay the cast and crew. Even if it's $20 a day, pay them something. That way they know that you mean business. And you know what? Also, if you're on the set and you're, I like to call it fun but firm. If you are a fun crew, a fun cast, but also you get shit done on time, and you don't make them stay there for 18 hours or beg them to stay for 18 hours, they will come back every single day. Just make sure that your cast and crew are taken care of. But yeah, that's where most of our budget goes to, that we might not think about. Because like locations, you can get them for free if you plan ahead of time. You can, unless you live in LA or New York, you can get most of your locations for free if you are smart about it. So.
Anybody in the family?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the same thing. It's just about paying everybody if you can. I mean, we never do anything with people where they don't get things back in or whatever. Pay them whatever you can. If it's $20 a day, it's $20 a day. Do the best you can by people. Look after them, feed them well, treat them well. And that's money well spent. The bulk of it going to be consumed production side.
I don't pay the actors, but I do feed them really well. I spend over $10,000 in 10 days to shoot for them to eat well. So when they go, they pound a day after lunch, everybody knows that. Great.
Yeah, speaking of the budget, I was wondering what kind of ideas you have on acquiring funding.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really hard. It's hard to find equity money these days. There's not a lot of people there who are willing to put money into any movies unless they've got some kind of name attached to it. The best bet, the thing that we found works for us, is finding somewhere where there's a good cash incentive that will work with your budget level. If you can work in somewhere like Georgia, if you can be qualified in Spain, wherever it is, that's kind of a guaranteed money. Usually, if you can find somewhere with a good tax incentive, then you can cash flow that and get that money up front to kickstart the production. So that's probably the best way to get going. And once you have the momentum, then it's usually easier to find other money. But I don't know if it does, but it's so hard to find just investors who just push cash up front unless you can. The thing is always like, well, can you get an A-lister? Can you get Nicolas Cage? Like, yeah, I had $1 million, but no. We've got someone who's a great actor that isn't like. So it's I think it's about finding those tax deals where you can get them, and just finding those deals that don't cost you anything other than time, money, swapping it for a role, giving someone a meal, getting to visit the set. Those kind of stuff is a really great way to get extras that you don't have cash for.
Yeah, super hard to find the funding. The Forest of the Trees was self-funded. My next one, the Trial of Margaret Stone, we just kicked off Indiegogo like 3 days ago. We're up to almost 6,000 on it. So, hopefully that continues to go well the next 60 days or so.
Yeah, I'm about the same as I said before. A lot of our funding comes from crowdfunding and kind of grassroots. Marketing really is what it is what we focus on, is making sure that we have a presence out there, not just online, but also we're showing up in person to events, talking about what we have to offer, and really selling yourself is the deal there. That's probably the biggest thing that I think about when it comes to funding is what is our marketing approach here, because that can really make or break your ability to get any money behind you.
That's very true. Mostly we've been crowdfunding. Obviously we'll throw in our own money when we have to, here and there to help out. But it's good to have a very polished crowdfunding presentation, whatever your campaign is. Make sure it's polished, it looks great. It's not just a video of you sitting at your desk begging for money, like that doesn't work. Nobody wants that. Have a very polished video presentation, and you will find that there are a lot of silent investors who want to remain anonymous that will give you large amounts of money through a crowdfunder. It's not just you know, we raised 50,000 for work slate plans through Indiegogo, and it's not just a whole bunch of people all giving $20. That's half of it, and the other half is a handful of people that want to remain anonymous and will give you $5, $10, $15,000 if they're impressed by your campaign. And there are people that will follow campaigns on Indiegogo and Kickstarter looking for good projects to give money to, and that's literally what they give their money to all the time. So if you can hit that note, you know, that's really good, and they will only go through those routes, you know. Yeah.
I would just add on that too. I've had 3 successful Kickstarter campaigns, two for shorts and then one for a web series I did, and they all hit their, like with Kickstarter, you know, the difference between that and Indiegogo is you have to hit a minimum. I think the reason Kickstarter likes to do that is they don't, if you say you need 10,000 to make your film and you only get 5,000, well, you're not going to be able to make the film you're trying to pitch, and then your backers are going to get, you know,
There's no confidence.
yeah, you have to make creative concessions. So, and I think either way works, but for Kickstarter, what has helped me with all 3 of those that I did was that it's not me talking in front of the camera, because I'm not an actor, but we actually went out and shot footage, like for the web series that I put together, we shot a whole episode first, and so then I was able to show an example to potential backers, like this is what part of it is going to look like if you want to see the rest of it. You know, maybe that helped sell the idea more. A question, and then I still had to self-finance another 25,000. But I think there's a lot of like for me at least, and I want to speak for anyone else here, but I think at the indie level there's enough that we can do in like a weekend, like with friends, to put something together. I think it's breaking through that barrier to, even for what I had to do, like it took me 3 years and 35,000 to make what I wanted to make. And that was the absolute minimum that I could pull together myself. Do you see value in, like, if you have a good feature idea, like say I've written a script hypothetically, I've got a good idea that I know I'm just not going to be able to self-finance it, like it's going to be 6 figures and I don't have that money to put together. Is there value in making like a proof of concept short and then trying to shop that around to production companies or investors first, and then saying like, if you like this, try to secure financing for a feature?
I mean, that is a good way to go about it if you are confident in your screenwriting abilities. There are other screenplay competitions that get you, you know, like Final Draft Big Break, Pinnacle Fellowships, Scriptapalooza, Script Pipeline, all those competitions. If you place, you will get a call from the producer. So that is another avenue. If you feel like it's at a budget where there's no way you're going to be able to raise $500,000 to make this movie, that's another route. And yes, also putting together like a pitch deck, like kind of like a proof of concept, like a short, also helps too. If you can make it really polished, like 5-minute short, kind of pitching the buyers of the film. That's also a good way to go. Or maybe try to get it to go viral or something like that. But if you know producers, just hit them up. Say, hey, what do you think about this? I got a really good concept idea for a low budget, genre feature. Are you interested? So yeah, if you know a producer, it doesn't hurt to ask. But yeah, if you're confident in your screenwriting abilities, maybe you might want to try the competition route, because that can yield pretty good results.
Yeah, I'd say just in terms of the proof of concept, I think it's a really good way to go. We did it, the film we had in this festival, The Observance, we did a proof of concept about 4 years ago. Just one of the scenes, and if you see it, it's very different to what we left the screen. It was a male character in the original, it's a female lead, and all sorts of stuff. But it really helped, and it was about, we had a tiny bit of money to put this thing together, but it was about making it as good as possible. It looked as good, sound as good, so it looked really polished, and that really helps us find the money.
Yeah, I agree. I think a proof of concept is a great idea. The Trial of Margaret Stone, our Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign starts with a 2-minute proof of concept, and then there's me and the actors kind of talking about it after that runs. I will never tell somebody not to do a proof of concept.
Yeah, no, I would agree. We kind of went the same route that Jason was just talking about. We kind of set up some shots that reflected the style and tone of the film. We rented the gear that we would end up shooting on just so we can really give, the final polished look. I've heard kind of mixed opinions on concept reels just because they're like, well, you have to spend money to make that short film, if you're trying to get budget, but I've always kind of heard that, you have to spend money to make money. So it's you might as well have something nice and reflective of the project to show when you're going out and pitching, because that's probably definitely going to get you the budget raising in 4 years here.
I do think you have to keep in mind what you're making it for. Like if you're making it to actually pitch to investors, then I think like a 5 to 8 minute proof of concept would be good. But like for what I'm doing with a crowdfunding campaign, I think more than 2 minutes is probably too long.
Yeah. And if you're talking to investors, what the other thing I recommend is get debt to read with your polished pitch deck. It doesn't have to be big, the shorter the better. Summary, key points, director's vision, all that kind of stuff. Make it look really visually engaging. That would really help.
We have two, I think Jesse went to Tamika.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she raised $140,000 in 30 days in crowdfunding. And promoting the crazy at Clubhouse. With us. So basically in Clubhouse is an audio type of social media group. It's not exactly popular anymore, but we used to hang out at that. So in one day that we had people listening to her talking about her project, the former T-Mobile vice president showed up and heard it and decided to give her $5,000 right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So her trick was having the people could be involved. Each one of them go out there and reach out to 5 people to donate. So it become a little MLM kind of way, But it works.
Yeah.
It worked for her. So she raised $140,000 in 130 days. Actually, not less than 30 days she was raising. So pretty good. So it's really something.
It took a lot of work for her to do that, though. She was on Clubhouse every single day, like in as many rooms as she could, talking about it and pitching it. It wasn't easy for her to do that.
Yeah. So speaking of that, so what is the pet peeve when you have to do I'm going to do it crowdfunding?
Crowdfunding sucks. I kind of, I wasn't a lot during those days, but I missed the olden days where artists had patrons, back in the olden times. They had rich people that would fund their work, We don't have that anymore, unfortunately. I'm sure somebody does somewhere.
Patreon doesn't work anymore?
No. What's that? Patreon?
Yeah.
Patreon works, but it's more to build a following than really
Sure.
sort of make money, because I'm sure like a video game streamer. But you just have to understand that a couple things about crowdfunding. It's a job. It's a whole job. If you have 2 jobs, well, get ready to have a 3rd job because it's every day, and you might lose some friends over on Facebook because you got to cold message people. You got to post every day, and people are going to get sick of seeing that stuff. But if you do it in a way that's not obnoxious and it's not grating, and you just have fun with it, with Worst Laid Plans, I posted thank you videos with my daughters. They were very young at the time. They're 6 and 9 now, but I would just have them sit with me, and we would just read off the names of the list of the people that go to say thank you, and it was very cute, and people liked it, and it was funny. And so that kind of stuff, if you just come across as you're not being artificial and like, just give us money, people will not be sick of you by the end of the campaign. Also, optics are very important for crowdfunders. You have to be very cognizant of who else is running a campaign at that time. If you're trying to fund a genre indie feature, you need to be aware of who else is funding a genre indie feature on social media at that time, because I have good friends that tried to fund a couple feature films recently, and they tanked because other people were giving their money to other feature films at the time. And I can't, us, quote unquote regular people that want to give to crowdfunders, they can't give to more than like 1 or 2 at a time. So because it can get expensive. So just be aware, and it also helps to be tapped into the community, on social media and know these people and know when they're starting their crowdfunders. That way, when there is a lull, there's a gap of a month or 2, you can launch yours then and reap benefits. It also helps to maybe start it, right around when people are getting their tax money back. Start your craft under that, because you'd be probably more successful than maybe in the dead of summer when people are on vacation, or in Christmas when people are spending money on gifts. Probably not a good idea to start a craft under that. So spring and fall are usually the best times to do craft unders, as far as I'm concerned. Sometimes you have no choice. It is what it is.
I think one of the things that really, I don't know if I would call it a pet peeve, but it was something that is probably really good to just be mindful of, is when you're crafting perks, you want to, put something out there that's alluring and people want to buy, and a lot of times, that leans into like merch territory and memorabilia, but a lot of people forget to like factor that into their budget, because it's like, more times than not, you don't have the money for all of the stuff that you're promising already. And then when you get down to it, it's actually a good little chunk that's about to come out of your budget that you weren't allotting for before. So I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I got as I was going through and crafting our crowdfunding campaign, is just how to be, I guess, cheap about perks, but also making them enticing enough to where people are going to want to back your campaign. Without sacrificing any of your budget.
Yeah, I just agree with them. It definitely sucks. Have to be on top of it and making sure everybody gets what they, what they paid for, basically. Being on top of that and trying to make sure nobody slips through the cracks, because they will call you out. So yeah, it's tough, but it's a necessary evil, unfortunately.
Kind of a twofold thing, both of what they said, both excellent points. I'm not going to name any names. We had a director that had attached oversight plans that was going to be 4 segments. It's going to be 5. I'm not going to talk about the fourth one. We had a director who was all gung-ho about everything, and we crafted a bunch of perks that we could afford, but a lot of the perks revolved around her delivering things, singing the song, making hats, they were all really cute stuff, but it was all kind of on her to do that. There was a certain chunk of the perks. And then she left the project, and now we don't have these perks anymore after they've been purchased. So I had to contact all these people individually and tell them, hey, you can't really deliver on these perks because this director is gone, here's a free Blu-ray, here's some posters, try to make up for that with the resources that we had. But just be very careful when you go in on something. The person that is trying to deliver the perk is going to deliver it, and it's going to still be with the product. So sometimes the burden falls upon the producer to produce results. That's kind of part of the job. So just make sure if you're delegating perks to somebody else that they're going to deliver it, if you really know that they're not just going to leave the project without any notice whatsoever, in the middle of the project.
I do kind of, if you were thinking about donating, like these crowdfundings, they make it very clear on their website, if you read, that what you're giving is a donation, and not that you should not expect to get anything from it. So just keep that in mind. The perks are something that the filmmakers are giving. They're not required to do it. So that's one thing to keep in mind.
And for me, I've been really lucky that we haven't had to do any crowdfunding, so it's not something I've must be nice.
Well, as that knows, we are actually at the end of the time. We're just trying to get there. That's what we got.
We could go another hour easily.
Sorry?
I just said we could have gone another hour easily.
Well, totally. There's another part of the producing. Besides producing, they're trying to deal with distribution and yes, marketing too. Also.
That hour took us time in 5 minutes.
We should have a little bit different. But I really appreciate you to be here. We want to thank you guys for hang out with them outside the room. There's a digital team going to come in here. Be sure to fix the makeup art lecture. Also, I know Tina's doing Tina's sister here? She's doing the casting audition. We also have the sound effect. I really say, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for being here with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.